All right, Kiss Army, welcome to the KissFAQ podcast. Thank you for giving us your time today and letting us into your head. I hope we don't do any damage. We're just a bunch of Kiss fans and we talk Kiss. So come along for the ride, you've got nothing to lose.
Hello, welcome to another live episode of the KissFAQ podcast. I am Ken, filling in for Julian today, and joining me is Daniel, which is Wheeze on the board, and Mark. And what are you on the board, Mark?
Marcus Almighty.
There it is, Marcus Almighty. See, and I don't know, I don't see. Let's see, Lonnie yet. I don't know if he's coming or not, but that's pretty much the normal for that. So I hope everyone's doing cool today. What do I have in the room? And I don't even have my people or chat or anything up here. There we go. Okay, hey, who's here? Robert Miller, Justin Hill, Hard Rock Heaven. Hey, isn't that you?
That's me.
And Kiss Rocks 57.
And Kiss Rocks 57. Thank you guys and anyone else who's joining today. We appreciate your viewership. But before we get into the actual your favorite Kiss lineups topic, we are going to talk about some news here. First of all, I don't know if anyone here, you guys heard, hopefully you heard, about there's a October 9th on the YouTube channel called Kiss Cadillac 75. There's a disc jockey, has his recollections of Kiss live at Cadillac High, the 8th through 10th, 1975, which is coming up, on the 50th anniversary of that whole thing that went down in Cadillac. It's kind of a big deal. But this guy actually has recollections about it, and he also talked about it on the latest Three Sides episode. He actually pretty much consumed the whole episode himself by talking his whole story, which was good. It was interesting, kind of real information, cool information about that stuff. But he also filmed some of the concert, or a song from the concert, I believe, Strutter. And they synced up the video and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, he's going to have a video out there, and it's going to be available on the 9th at, I want to say it's 9:15 p.m. Probably, is that Central Time? Maybe, because it's the same time as when Kiss went on stage at Cadillac High. So that's why he's doing it. Okay. And I think it's going to be somewhere around a half an hour video or something like that. It's going to be live, I don't know if it's going to be live or not, but it's going to go live.
And Ken, you had some ideas that you wanted to do during the live showing of that thing, didn't you?
Yeah. So, I talked about it. It would be cool if it's up to Julian whether he wants to do it or not, about viewing that live, having a live episode of our podcast and watching that as it first is available, going live. So.
A reaction video.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, a reaction video. So, what do you guys' thoughts about this video? YouTube. Daniel or Mark? Daniel. Oh, now you unmute.
Oh, you're muted, Daniel. You pulled a Ken.
Sorry about that. What was the question?
About what are your thoughts about this Cadillac?
Yeah, personally, Cadillac was never a big thing for me because I joined the army way later, 10 years later. So I had to find out about it way later on. So to me, it was never that's big impact kind of thing. But I do recognize that it was a big event for Kiss. and they often talk about it. So I think it's cool that they do something with it, and it's pretty cool that someone who was there is able to, speak about the event, because we're not getting any younger here, and people are falling, off the cliff, so to speak, left and right, and people are dying. So it's really cool to get first-hand, first-hand information, because it's very hard to find Kiss fans from way back then. We're blessed to have you, Ken, from the 70s, because there aren't too many around to talk about this kind of stuff. And not too many people can have the same passion for decade after decade as you have, Ken. So we'll see. I think it can be pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as Daniel as far as that goes. I mean, I got into Kiss like proper around Asylum in that time, much like Julian, right? But I as well recognize the importance of Cadillac, and luckily we had all that other footage of them doing the parade and stuff like that. But I'll tell you one thing: after reading a lot of books and reading a lot of different sources about this, the whole Cadillac incident is a great example or a great teaching method of marketing and how you can fool an audience. And I don't necessarily mean that in a negative way, but I mean, the ending of the whole thing is one of the greatest marketing ploys ever. You have them come out to the middle of a field, football field, after a big weekend with them, big party, big concert, everything. They get picked up by a helicopter and they get flown away, and people are thinking, wow, they get picked up by a helicopter and they're going to be taken back to wherever their homes are. And meanwhile, they could barely afford the helicopter to take them beyond the other side of the stadium, which was like 150 feet away. So, they made themselves look much bigger than they actually were. In fact, they were near, being broke at that point. So that's a great marketing lesson of how you can make people think that you're something that you're not really at that point. But it is a very important moment historically.
Yeah. So I know it's a big deal. I mean, it must have been cool to live in that area and be able to, or even go to that high school and that happened. I just can't imagine, that happening. It's just kind of unbelievable. It's almost like a fable or something. But yeah, it's pretty cool. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm hoping, this is my hope, I'm hoping on the same day that Pop Out or whatever, Universal will
You're going to mention a box set, aren't you?
A box set. It'd be the perfect day to do it. So hey, but if they don't do it that day, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
You and that box set of yours.
I know. They say it's coming, but it's a matter of when, right? All right. So that's that. One other thing is there is I think it was yesterday it turned up. There's this Kiss fan avatars YouTube channel, and they have a YouTube video, like a music video. It's AI kind of, I guess, driven for War Machine. The song War Machine. It's like a music video, and it's actually pretty darn good. I'm hoping it's like, well, if Popcast can do this or better, that's what I'd want to see. Them doing more songs or do songs. Why don't they do songs like this already? Create music videos for songs that never had music videos, but they're classic, Kiss songs. Yeah. And it's really, really cool. So did you guys see it at all? And I know, Daniel, I know you have seen it. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it was a pretty cool thing. I guess someone out there got tired waiting for Pop House to do the avatars, so he just did them himself. The video in itself, I think the theme is pretty cool. Kiss is rocking. Eric Carr is riding a war machine, a tank, when drumming. And they are using photos from the Creatures of the Night era that they have, sort of the photos have come to life in the video. You can recognize some classic Creatures of the Night era photos. At times they blend in. Gene doesn't really look like Gene at times. So
all the time, yeah.
No, but I think it's a great theme for the song War Machine. If Kiss could have done something like this by themselves, it would have been so cool, and I really enjoyed it. First, I was kind of skeptic. Oh no, not another AI video. It will be just crap. Of course, there are things that are not up to par, like the drumming. He's not hitting the drums as you hear
The
the
actual
drums.
synchronized.
No, it's not really synchronized. It's little
cymbal.
milli vanilli stuff going on there, and they are not actually playing the guitar riffs as they play them in the song. But if you look past all that, I think it's a great initiative by this guy, and this is just the start. People will be able to make real cool videos for the classic songs that never got a video, like Shout It Out Loud and War Machine and, I've Had Enough, Into the Fire, King of the Mountain,
All kinds of songs.
Killer from Creatures.
The whole catalog.
The whole catalog, maybe. So I think it was a breath of fresh air, actually. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. So, Mark, what did you... I know you didn't really get to see it, but you're looking at it now.
I just watched it now, so, I mean, it's...
Better late than never.
Yeah, it's only 4 minutes. I got lots of other things to do, too.
Yeah.
But
how's that look to you?
It looks pretty good. I mean, again, the things that Daniel brought up are, obvious as well. But I mean, look, let's face it. If you want to be really nitpicky, you could probably go on to there's a couple of record labels that have channels like Frontier Records has this 24-hour channel that streams older artists and older videos. And if you watch some of those videos, these guys are way off on their performances too. So it's not just an avatar. I mean, I've seen real life people do videos and they're not playing it right on their things too. So that's neither here nor there as far as I'm concerned. I mean, as long as the song is decent and the sort of imagery looks good, I mean, I think it looks pretty good. I mean, sure, could it have been done better? But you got to understand, this is a guy doing it by himself. Could you imagine a company that actually has money behind them that can do this and spend the time to have 6 separate people working at it at once? It could turn out to be really, really good. So it depends on, I guess, how far they're willing to take it. Will Pop House see this and say, hey, that's a good idea. We'll do that too. And that could be the start of maybe, companies like that sometimes need a kick in the rear end. Sometimes they need to see somebody else doing it. True. And then they realize, oh shit, we kind of missed the boat here. Let's go and, do it now and show them. It's kind of like the KISS motto, they're going to show them how the big boys do it, let Pop House go in and do it. So Pop House, I'm talking to you. If you guys are supposed to be the big boys here of this whole thing, then show us, stop, wasting our time here and get rolling and do some stuff with this.
Yeah. I'm surprised they haven't really done anything at all. Even they're
really you're surprised
previewing something, their progress. So I don't know where. So if you have a chance, you guys should, if anyone here should check out that video because it is pretty cool. It's something different. So, all right. So are we ready to get on to our topic of the week, which is your favorite KISS lineups? Okay. So I just want to say here, a little disclaimer before we get started. Everyone out there, including those who have KISS derangement syndrome, KDS. Anyway, please do not get upset if your favorite lineup does not appear as number 1 or 2 or whatever on our, we have a combined list because there's actually 5 of us who put our rankings in for the 9 different lineups. I really do believe, though, that most of us love each and every lineup in their own way, of course, right? We do. There's no right and wrong picks here. Everyone has their own history with KISS and when it got started and what songs they like and all that kind of stuff. So I just want to lay that out there.
Look,
first.
basically what Ken's trying to say is don't go out of your head if the original lineup doesn't come in number 1 or whatever. I mean, I would like to think that by now we're mature enough to just take this and have fun with it and not, go crazy over these things. It's just fun, people. It's not real life. Come on.
My take on this is a bit different. I think if you really like one of the lineups and you're underwhelmed by its placement in the rankings. Make your voice heard and explain yourself why that lineup is so good and should be higher up in the rankings. There's we have been doing this thing for well over a decade by this point, so you have to come up with something spectacular to hurt our feelings. So you can write whatever you want. We don't really care about the nitpickers and the negative people. So, but please write with passion, because if I can just say a quick thing here, Ken, I made a poll on my YouTube channel,
go ahead.
and it was like, now it has somewhere around 200 votes, and I put in the 4 big lineups, and they had to vote for their favorite: Vinny and Eric Carr, Bruce and Eric Carr, Bruce and Eric Singer, Tommy and Eric Singer. I know you had a few more lineups, with Ace.
But that's after your poll was after the originals, right?
Yeah, after the originals.
Okay.
Because we all know, I guess the originals will be number 1 for most people. So I put out the 4 main lineups that were, in Kiss after. And I was a bit taken aback by the results, because at this moment, Bruce and Eric Carr, 55% of the votes. Vinny and Eric Carr, 26% of the votes. Tommy and Eric Singer, 10% of the votes. And Bruce and Eric Singer, 9% dead last. No, not dead last, but in
your
the 4th position. So I thought Bruce and Eric Singer would be higher up, but seems like people don't care about that lineup. So I just thought I'd bring that up.
All right. Well, let's see this list there.
All right. Well, I'm not going to show you the full list until.
No, just go from 9 to 1.
We're starting at number 9. Number 9, and up here, as you can see, for people watching this, we have kind of pictures of all the lineups. Actually, there's 2 that are Vinny with Vinny in it, just because, whatever. Put one with makeup and one without the makeup.
Okay,
but that's the same lineup. But there's really 9 lineups of Kiss. Just to also say that we're not counting unofficial members like Anton Fig or Bob Kulick.
No, it's got to be actual lineups. No and guest musicians. Or anything.
Yeah, and Mark, no Getty, Alex, or Neil either.
They didn't play with those guys.
I know. I'm just giving you a bad time there. So okay, all right. So number 9 is our combined rankings for myself, Daniel, Mark, Lonnie, and Julian. Coming in at number 9 is the lineup of Gene, Paul, Eric Carr, and Mark St. John, which is that's second from the left on the bottom there.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that doesn't surprise me. I think all of us, except for Lonnie, put it as number 9 on our list. Lonnie had it at number 8.
Okay.
So what are your thoughts about this lineup?
Well, I have to say that it was such a short amount of time Mark St. John was in the band, but during that time he managed to, look terrible in the Heavens on Fire video, play a few solos that weren't quite my taste on the album, even if he did some good stuff, play 1.5 show where he turned off both Gene and Paul with his, antics, tried to be center stage and try to, be a star. And also he played the guitar way too high. I mean, people are talking about Bruce holding his guitar way up high. That's just a myth. He's holding it perfectly. But Mark St. John is holding it like some sort of ukulele playing. And it didn't look right. It didn't play right. It's crazy that they picked him, and of course that lineup is dead last, but it's just because of Mark St. John. Eric Carr, no problem with Eric Carr, but Mark St. John, no. I'm good. It's good that they got rid of him real quick there.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that this is an obvious last place because, I mean, he didn't have enough time to make any real sort of impact in there. Basically, all his all the thing that we have to really critique him from really is studio performance, and not that he was horrible, but he just wasn't somebody who gelled with what they wanted to do. I mean, Paul Stanley clearly wanted a more melodic lead player, whereas at that time they sort of needed a more flashier player, which he was, but they didn't connect those two. You know, they didn't have that sort of connection that Paul was hoping for, and it shows. And live, you know, he played like you said, 1.5 shows, and that's really hardly enough to give any sort of real criticism. Because I mean, yeah, he held his guitar high. That's neither here nor there, really, if you think about it. Because I mean, Bruce did play pretty high. If you look at the Animalize stuff, he had his guitar up pretty high. He looked pretty dorky on that. But you know, it's still. It doesn't matter. The main thing is the performance. After a while, he lowered his guitar, but you know. You think of when you think of that though, you think of like, you know, look at Steve Clark from Def Leppard. His guitar was so low, it was down by his knees, but he wasn't exactly what you would call a technically great guitar player either, you know, so he could afford to do that, right? So, but you know, whatever. We're talking about Mark St. John. He was probably, you know, he was the weak link of that lineup.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I put him at the bottom, of course. He's kind of an afterthought because he just wasn't there at all, really long. So just a short little time period. He didn't even play lead on all the songs on
No,
Animal
Bruce
Live.
did a few.
Bruce did a couple things on there. So that was kind of a weird pick. At least not pick for the last lineup, but a weird pick for Kiss.
Yeah, insane.
To choose him, but they wanted. It's like, can he play fast? Okay, well, that's not everything. You know, you got to do
obviously
melodic and that sort of thing. Too. Yeah. But anyway, so that's number 9. Yeah. What?
I just want to add, he doesn't completely stink on the album. He has a few good things, but overall, Bruce Kulick was a way better pick for them.
Yeah. All right. So coming in at number 8 on our list is the lineup of Gene Paul, Peter, and Tommy Thayer. So Peter Criss and Tommy Thayer with Gene and Paul. And I
guess that was for the Aerosmith tour, was it?
Yeah.
That was Australia, right? And
no, that was Ace and Eric.
No,
Peter played Live 4.
No, the Symphony. The Symphony. Remember
the Symphony. And also
Aerosmith. The Aerosmith.
Yeah. Okay, you mean okay. That's okay. Okay, you're correct there. So he played the Symphony. Oh my God! Well, he actually managed to get through the Symphony pretty well, I think, Peter Criss. I was kind of, afraid he would spoil it completely, but some people say that he played better when he came back in the band in 2003 than he did previously. But I don't know. I think at this point in time, Peter Criss was nowhere near the Peter Criss of the 70s. So I had a hard time really when I saw them in 97. That was my main issue with the band, that Peter Criss was such a, disappointment compared to how they sounded during the Revenge era lineup. So they went from a current hard rocking band to having a drummer that just, he was keeping the beat, not much more than that. Mm-hmm. So and adding Tommy Thayer at the beginning, I was really against Tommy Thayer. And I was one of those guys, what the heck? They put the Ace Frehley makeup on Tommy Thayer. That's insane. And I was completely against everything at this point. I really wasn't listening to them, and they really turned me off. So I was starting to listen to other bands during this period. So this lineup was way down on my list as well. And they never recorded an album or anything like that. It was just that I think the promoter wanted 3 original members.
Yeah.
That's the main reason he got back in the band.
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, you made an interesting point, Daniel, when you said that, you were disappointed because they were such a well rehearsed and rocking band in 93 or whatever it was, and then they came and brought the original lineup back. But I think the main thing with that, though, when you think about it, is that it almost seemed like when you mentioned the word Kiss, nobody wanted that style of Kiss. They were like, whenever they had a chance to tour, nobody came to see them. It was those half empty arenas. Nobody gave a shit about that version of Kiss. They wanted to see that when people think of Kiss, and this has been proven since this makeup went back on, is that they want to see, when they think of Kiss, they think of the 70s Kiss. They don't think of anything else with Kiss but that. Mm-hmm. They made Psycho Circus album. They didn't give a shit about that record, really. They wanted to, people think of that era of Kiss. So, of course, Peter Criss didn't play nearly as good as he did. He was a shell of himself, really, if you think about it, at that time. But people didn't care, because as long as he could play the songs that they played back then, that's all they really cared about. Now, I had this lineup as well at the second from the bottom in my lineup rankings. Uh-huh. Yeah, and I watched some of the World Domination shows, and I thought they were not too bad. But I think they had the advantage, though, for one reason there, as far as Peter's concerned, is because they didn't play a full, really long set, I don't think.
Yeah.
They played a decent set. Like, they were considered double headliners at the time. But I think that because of the fact that they didn't have to play as long as they could have played, it worked out to Peter's advantage, because he didn't have to, drain himself out through a longer set. So it wasn't that bad. And I thought Tommy did a good job. I had no issue with Tommy at that time doing it, because and you know me, I'm a big, stomping my hand on the table, that the things that Tommy brought to the table was that he was reliable. He played the songs like they were done, and stuff like that. And that was my big problem with Ace at the time, was that he was unreliable, and being in a band with people that were sometimes like that, I couldn't fucking stand people like that. So, of course, Ace immediately rubbed me the wrong way when he started reading stories about him missing flights and this and that. And you're thinking, so what is this guy doing? Like, what an idiot, But, I think that when we talk about this lineup, I just think that while Tommy's good and Peter was all right at it, they still hadn't found any kind of real gelling or any kind of quote unquote magic yet with this lineup. And I don't think it would have came in anyway. So that's why I kind of looked at the lineup as where it was.
Yeah, it was okay lineup, and it was short. Again, it's another one that ran a short period of time, or a couple of times, really short. So it didn't last long, except for the Aerosmith tour, kind of that length of that tour. But we all had it at least three of us had it at 8 out of 9. And Lonnie had it at 9. And actually, Julian, he was the highest. He had this lineup at number 6.
Oh, Lord.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Well, he's a Peter Criss supporter.
Right? That's part of it. Peter Criss,
I guess.
If you go see one of those concerts, were pretty darn good, actually, with Peter and Tommy. I checked out, so it was surprisingly really, really, really good.
Did you go to the tour and see one of the shows?
That's the one I skipped.
You skipped that one.
I refused to see Kiss opening for another band, so I didn't go to. I didn't think they should be. Even though it's considered a co-headlining, I refused to go, and I had just seen Kiss on the farewell like 3 times.
Okay.
But they did it. They did it again later when they opened for Whitesnake, when there was the Hot in the Shade tour there.
Yeah. So
there was some drama during that concert. I remember all calling out.
Hot in the Shade tour. Hot in the Shade tour.
Here in Toronto at the CNE Grandstand, Whitesnake was the main band, and Kiss had to play before them.
Well, they didn't like that. That wasn't that way here in the U.S.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying that I've said it.
It was just a one-off. It was just one show. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. So, okay. I was going to say, what? They didn't open for Whitesnake here. But all right. So, coming in at number 7 now. We have the lineup of Gene Paul. Of course, every lineup is going to be Gene and Paul. Yeah. They are Kiss, right?
Yeah.
Gene Paul, Eric Singer, and Tommy Thayer.
Oh, okay.
So that's the one that ended, 2023. the last lineup that ran the longest of any lineup, actually.
Yeah.
And that's at, like I said, it's 7 for me. It was 7 for me on the list, so it's kind of fell into place. Daniel, yours was a little higher, I think.
I don't recall where I put it, but
You put this lineup as number 6.
number 6. Yeah, I think when they started out with Eric Singer and Tommy Thayer, I thought it was, I didn't like it. It didn't feel like Kiss. But you have to give them, what do you say? Give them props, give them credit for putting on the show that they did for years and years and years, and I think they became better and better at it. And as a fan, you understood that there's really no other Kiss around. You can't put in Peter Criss or Ace Frehley. They are not dependable enough to have in the band. So you kind of, okay, this is better than nothing. And I went to see them quite a few times, and I think they pull it off. I think they managed to keep Kiss alive. So I really appreciate that I was able to go and see Kiss, and I wouldn't have been able to do that if it wasn't for these two guys. And Eric Singer always had my respect, since I was into Kiss during the Revenge era. So Tommy Thayer took some time for me to accept, because he felt like such a sort of an Ace clone for a while. But I do think the 2 albums he was a part of, Monster and Sonic Boom, yeah, that made me respect him a bit more. He felt like a real player in the band. He felt like a part of the band. Right. So after those records, I really, I stopped being critical against Tommy Thayer, and I accepted him as, it's better than nothing. So yeah, but it wasn't. He wasn't a showman. He wasn't, doing anything spectacular. But he did well enough, I think, and he stayed true to how the songs were supposed to sound, and it was very dependable, and a nice guy, nice to the fans, good in interviews. If I had a band, I'd like to have a guy like Tommy Thayer in the band, because that's someone you can rely on. So he paid his dues. So I actually, towards the end of Kiss, I kind of enjoyed that lineup. I thought they were great. The weak link was actually Paul during the later years. It wasn't Tommy Thayer or Eric Singer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, I put the lineup as number 5 in my list. I saw this lineup a lot. I must have seen them at least 7 times for sure when they came around with this lineup. And I had no real issue with it. Again, like I said earlier, not to go over the same ground again, but all the things that Tommy Thayer brought to the table, I respected him for. Dependency, played good. And while, he did all the usual stuff that Ace did, the smoking guitar bits, the guitar with the rocket, bits and all that stuff. So he covered the ground that they needed to be covered. And plus, he wasn't drunk 90% of the time, and he was playing everything decently well. I mean, and the thing with him that was great is that, they could change the lineup of songs and do stuff if they wanted to, and there was no issue with it. I mean, Eric Singer, of course, was brilliant. The only thing I didn't like, the only thing I didn't like about what they did with him, and this is not Eric's fault, but when he first came in and they put the makeup on, he still started adding a lot of the double kick flourishes, and he did a lot of the more modernized drumming. But then there came a time, I think it was right around the 35th anniversary, where all of a sudden his drumming started to get a little bit more simplistic. And I was like, what the hell's going on with him? Why is he doing that? And it was obviously because they wanted him to play more like Peter did on those songs, right? Yeah. And keep it a little bit more simple. And that's the only thing that kind of turned me off a little bit of it, because I was like, I liked Eric's playing a bit better. You know what I mean? That way. So, but, I think overall, I enjoyed a lot of those shows. I agree that the biggest problem with that lineup became Paul. Paul was unreliable vocally after a while. he spent way too much time with this. Let me tell you, people, like the in between stuff. He was blowing out his voice doing that stupid shit. He should have just kept it, to a minimum, or not do as long a drawn out thing, and keep his voice a bit better, and then maybe it wouldn't have been so bad. But I think overall it was a pretty solid lineup. You never had to worry about cancellations or anything like that with these guys, and they were fine in my opinion.
Yeah, perfectly fine. Good lineup. I just say here that who was it? Lonnie had it at 7. Is that right?
I don't know. You're the one who has the list.
You're the only one who knows.
Yeah, Eric Singer and Tommy. 7, and Julian had 8.
Oh, okay.
Surprisingly, yeah. So he may have some explaining to do. I believe Julian's on the watching this live because of a couple comments. He's actually
in England, isn't he, today?
Yeah, but he said he was on his way to a pub, so
I think he's drinking.
Oh, that's good.
Having a beer or something.
Yeah.
So which is perfectly fine. So that's
It's
good.
a bit early. I think it's like half.
it's like 5 o'clock.
5 in
5:30,
in England now. So
Yeah.
take it easy, Julian.
Yeah,
Never,
not too hard
never
on that
early
stuff.
enough to drink.
And
In England, it's never early enough.
Yeah.
They're pretty good at hitting the pubs early.
yeah. So and speaking of
Oh, hey, you're still here, watching or listening. Why don't you hit that subscribe button or click the like one? And if you want even more, click on the join button on YouTube. Thanks for your support.
see, there you go. You got your dose of Julian
Plug.
for the day and the plug for the podcast. So all right, so let's move on. Coming in at number 6.
7,
Is-
I think, isn't it?
No, 6. 6.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Mark St.
So
John,
we just it's
Peter
6.
Chris, Tommy Thayer, and Eric Singer. Yeah, it should be
Yes.
6 now.
So 6 is Gene, Paul, Ace Frehley, and Eric Singer. And that was a real short
Yeah. Just a few gigs.
lineup. I think Japan and whatnot.
Actually, can I go first with this one?
Yeah, you go first, Mark.
Okay, because I had this one. You said Gene Paul, Ace, and Eric Singer, right? That's the one
Correct.
now.
Yeah.
Okay, I had them pretty high. I had them up at number 3 as my third lineup.
Yeah, you had 3.
And-
That's
And I'll tell you, I mean, I remember when he first got announced to come back during the farewell tour and he did the Japan run. I was like, surprised. At first, when I saw that photo of him with the makeup, it looked kind of weird because he had such short hair. I was like, whoa, what the hell? He looked a little odd in it. But when I watched those videos, and I watched quite a few of them on YouTube, there's quite a few good ones actually on YouTube of the shows with him on there. This lineup was really, really good, I thought. I mean, I thought Ace finally felt a little bit more like it almost seems like he was revitalized with Eric Singer there. He was much more in the groove. He wasn't so as sloppy. Everything seemed to fit a lot better with this lineup. I thought that the drumming energy that he brought back into the songs was really good. I mean, some of those shows are some of my favorite shows for sure on there. I really enjoyed them. And I mean, when they first did the live off the soundboard and they announced that the Tokyo one was going to be the first one, I was on it. I mean, I immediately bought the vinyl, the CD, everything of that one because I thought that it was really, really good. I thought that, Ace's playing really improved from that. So I think that this lineup really benefited from having Eric Singer back in because, think about it. They were doing before this, they were doing the farewell run and you had a Peter Chris who had a teardrop painted on his face. And they could hardly get through any shows. And if you watch those shows, they were horrendous. Like they were terrible performances. They were just brutal. And to go from that, and to see them perform such a great versions of the songs that they did. I mean, even songs that Ace didn't have anything to do with, like Heaven's on Fire and stuff like that. He played them so much better when Eric Singer came back into the band with them. It was like night and complete day. So that's why they ranked pretty high on my list.
I have to second Mark there because that's the same feeling I got when Eric Singer rejoined the band, and Chris was out. But the problem with this lineup, in hindsight, they didn't do enough to 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 put them
Stay
higher
in
in the list
time.
for me. No,
Yeah.
I think it was very promising. It felt like it could have become something great, but then Ace quit the band, and
Hmm.
you never know where it would have taken them with Ace and Eric. But I do agree with Mark that the shows there in Japan, and I think they played Australia as well, were great, and they seem to gel real well, Ace and Eric, and I
Hmm.
think they became friends real fast, and worked well together, and they both are kind of playful. You can't say that about Paul and Gene, really. They want to do, strict, the same thing, uh,
Hmm.
a bit on the safe side. And I do recall one of the shows where Ace started to play Rocket Ride and all sorts of stuff, and
Yeah.
Eric Singer was. He played the correct drums. He
Yeah.
knew the old tune, so he could just go on. And Gene got mad. What does the Ace Frehley want? What does the Ace Frehley band want to do
Want to
next?
play
He
next,
said.
or yeah,
He didn't like that
that's
Ace
kind of
stole the
funny.
limelight from Gene, but Eric was totally into it. He just started drumming to the songs, and I kind of like that. Playfulness in the band, because it was so lost for many years when it was Peter and Ace. It was the same set list, it was the same songs, same effects, almost the same tour year after year after year during the reunion era. So it was a breath of fresh air, certainly, when Eric Singer came back into the band. He looked kind of weird, but he played his heart out, so it was a cool lineup.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, yeah, it did end up as number 6. Is that what we're on, right? Yeah, 6. So uh, I think, Mark, you had him 3, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Lonnie was 4,
Okay.
and Julian had them at 6. Julian and I were on 6 on that one. Daniel, you had them at 7.
Okay.
So, but yeah, that was it would have been interesting to see that
Yeah.
lineup last longer. It's too bad Ace's
Yeah.
sobriety didn't start earlier. I think, and maybe he would have stayed. I don't know. Who knows what
Yeah.
he could have done, or maybe recorded an album with that lineup or something. I don't know. It probably would have been pretty good.
That would have been cool.
Yeah. All right. So now coming in at number 5, we have Gene Paul, Ace, and Eric Carr. So this is pretty much your Australian time unmasked
The Elder.
lineup. So which lasted into just through the Elder. So yeah. For me, at least, I really enjoy this one. It's high. It's pretty high on my list. Number 2 on
2.
my list.
Whoa.
Wow.
That was
Yeah.
cool.
Well, I was there when it happened, and
Yeah.
it changed. So you had the first lineup, and then it switched to the Eric Carr, and Eric Carr kind of. I enjoyed the Eric Carr, and then I always enjoyed Eric Carr throughout all the lineups that he was in. But I thought that was a pretty darn good line. He gave him a kick in the butt on that Australian tour.
But that's really interesting, Ken. What was your feelings when you knew that
Well, they
Peter Criss was
replaced
out
Peter?
of the band?
Not too bad. It was kind of surprising, but the thing is, I was a Kiss fan that came in at 77, so it was just a few years later the change happened. Though it was kind of a shock to a degree.
And it was just the drummer. So
I enjoyed it, and he seemed like a great guy and a good drummer, and so I was like, hey, he seems pretty good.
You
I was okay
accepted
with- I didn't-
Eric Carr right off the bat.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
So I was good about it. It's all no problems. with
Yeah, I
me.
mean,
So,
I found this lineup was sort of. I thought personally when I was doing this that I might have ended up higher, but I only had it at number 7 for me personally because I found that while Eric was, what they needed at the time, obviously, if you watch some of the Dynasty shows and that they were pretty dreadful at that point, and there was obviously a need of change for them. So when they came in with that, I didn't think it was bad. I like Eric Carr. In fact, I think that he was a very great drummer, for them. There are just little things of him that I just didn't like as a drummer after a while, but overall, I thought he was a very, very good drummer. I think just the main thing about this lineup that I didn't like was number one, I just don't think, like some of the other ones, it didn't have enough time really to gel. After they did Unmasked, which Eric Carr had nothing to do with drumming wise, yeah, we get an album like The Elder, which was like not a record I like at all. And when I associate that with this, I think that played a big role on the lineup ranking itself, because I thought that it was just not a good lineup as far as what they did on record. I didn't like. I didn't. You can boo me all you want. I think it's a terrible record, and I think that the tour, while the tour was pretty decent, I think that the lineups that I ranked higher than this deserve a much higher ranking, because I think they did better live and on record.
Okay.
Okay, well, yeah. Daniel, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it was just a brief period of time when this lineup was active. And I'm with Mark. The problem for me with this lineup is The Elder. I know you enjoy The Elder, Ken, but to me, it's at the bottom of the barrel.
Wow.
I don't know what the heck it's supposed to be. There are good tunes in there somewhere, but the whole concept, trying to be so sophisticated, I hate that. Kiss, keep it simple, suckers. That's Kiss.
You like the Peter Criss concept better than the Elder concept?
Actually, I would put that album, I think, higher than The Elder, actually, because it's like a personal story about his life. The Elder is just such a, the classic thing with the story of the chosen one fighting the forces of evil and beating them at the end. It's so silly to me. It's such a silly concept. Yeah, an Ace laughter is perfect there, because it's a silly story, and they put the songs in another order, so it didn't even make sense when they released it. It's such a complete clusterfuck. They should have put out Creatures of the Night instead of that piece of crap. Just a waste of plastic, a waste of vinyl. So that's why the lineup didn't end up high for me. Even though if you watch concerts from the Australian tour, they rock. And I agree that Eric Carr, he added some stuff to the live show. He was way better than Peter Criss was on the Dynasty tour. So it felt like with that fresh of something new coming into the band. It felt like they had kind of thing, it felt like they were onto something, and then they released The Elder. It was a complete disaster. So that's why this lineup, I can't rank it that high because of that album, and then we didn't get anything more out of that lineup. So no, not my favorite lineup.
Well, who was it? I had it number 2, right? And so Ace, not Ace, but Lonnie had it number 3.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, and Julian was number 5 on his list. Right in the middle. For me, it was number 2, like I said, and I enjoy that lineup. I enjoy The Elder. Next year, we're going to have a Refocus, 45th anniversary Refocus next year. So that should
you
be
guys, do
interesting.
You remember when we discussed The Elder last time? I think it was the 3 of us.
It could have been, yeah. So
and it was kind of interesting.
I'm sure the next one will be with the new format that we do, so it should be pretty good. All right, let's move on to now the top four. We got number four. Here's number four: Gene Paul, Eric Carr, and Vinny the Wiz Vincent.
Okay. Well, I'll go first. Eric Carr, Vinnie Vincent. Okay, so I had that ranked as number 6 on my list. Uh, I thought that while the albums that were involved with them, like I mean, Vinny had some input on Creatures, not completely like he did on Lick It Up, obviously. But those two records were fine. Creatures is one of my favorite records of all time, almost. It ranks like I think it's like number 3 or something on my overall list for albums. And live, I thought that they were pretty good. The only thing with with Vinnie Vincent, is that I really didn't like him live as much as I liked the other guitar players. I thought that his guitar playing was kind of all over the place, and his soloing, like his guitar solos, unless there were certain ones, like I remember we were doing some of the comparisons, like when he did the solo for Dr. Love in Rio, I thought that was one of the better guitar solos that he did. And I remember I thought it was pretty good how he played that one. But there are times when he does solos and I'm just like, wow, what is this guy playing? I mean, it's just all over the place. And it's just like just not even good selection of notes. Sometimes he's just playing fast for the sake of doing something fast. And I mean, you hear some of these like, and he repeats always that same stupid like, he always does the same lick all the time in his solos. All the time he does this one lick variation in there, and it always appears in his solos. And
Ace never did.
Well, he's always repeats everything. He's a pentatonic player, but but the thing is, it's just his melody sometimes suffered because of that. He wasn't nearly as good melodically because he did a lot of whammy bar stuff that was a little wonky here and there, and some of his stuff was a little too flashy. Like I mean, when he does interviews, the most important thing he says goes, "You're only hearing 20% of what I could do on guitar." I mean, if that's only 20%, I mean, like I don't want to hear the rest because the it's just terrible. Like his sense of melodies in studio, they can control them a bit better. Paul was able to say nah or this and that. Let's try this, and it worked out a lot better in studio. But live, I mean. And let's not even get started about his actual solo. I mean, come on. Some of this stuff is way off the wall.
You're saying you really like Vinny, I guess.
Yeah, Okay. I like him. I like him best when he was out. That's what I like the best.
Wow. Oh boy.
So,
Daniel,
that's how I think.
You had him pretty high on your list.
I had him very high. I had this lineup in
number 2
place. Yeah.
Wow.
And why? Well, I'll just tell you a story from last week because there is one student I have that he's 12 years old. He's a real rocker, sporting the long hair, wearing the Slayer T-shirt. I think he always comes to me because he knows I'm a rock and roll fan as well. And he mentioned that he has all the Kiss records. And he knew I was a Kiss fan, so he asked me, what song should I go back and listen to? And I thought, well, we have Rock and Roll Night, shout out loud, but this is a kid who's into Slayer, Metallica, Megadeth. He knows all that kind of stuff, but he's really starting to get into Kiss. And I said, well, you have to go to the Creatures of the Night album and go and listen to War Machine. And then you listen to the guitar solo on War Machine. Such a great guitar solo. Then you can continue listening to Creatures of the Night and maybe a few others. But put on Creatures of the Night. And that's my main thing with Vinnie Vincent. I think he managed to transcend Kiss from being just this, boogie rock and roll band to a heavy metal band. He was a big part of that. The Creatures of the Night record and the Lick It Up records are easily in the top 5 for me, I think. And I do like his solos. I have to agree with Mark. He had some problems, sort of interpreting the older solos.
The early live shows.
But he became a bit
Especially-
better during the tour. Maybe if he
He
had
got
gotten-
better. Yeah.
he got better, but he should have been better than he was. I don't know why
Yeah.
he had such problems with the early solos. But if he would have stayed for Animalize, I think that record could have been way better.
Yeah.
And he would have improved his solo. I would have liked to see more of that lineup because he was such a powerhouse when it came to the songwriting. You know, he had something that Gene and Paul lacked. So he had the metal. He had the. He was very good at writing metal stuff. And if I think back on the Kiss catalog, I really enjoy those years from after The Elder, from 82 to maybe 85. Those albums, I go back and listen to a whole lot because I like how they sound, and I like, you know, Kiss's version of heavy metal, sort of speaking. You know, I think they really managed to be a current band during those times, and they released great records. Gene's slacked a little bit during the Animalized record, but other than that, I think his stuff is great on Creatures, Lick It Up, and also Asylum. I don't know what happened in '84. Maybe it was that movie with Tom Selleck or something.
Movies and stuff.
That
Yeah.
fucked things up. But other than that, I really do enjoy all of his contributions on those albums. So, and live, well, when I watched that Rio concert they did in South America in front of 700,000 people, I think Vinny looks pretty cool. I think he moves around. He
doesn't just stand there, you know.
No, he doesn't just stand there. He's really into it. And I think that might have been a problem. He was a bit too much for Gene and Paul. He stole some of the limelight for those guys. So they want someone who is a bit more, you know, not showing off so much. But I do enjoy that concert, and I've seen a few bootlegs from the Creatures tour. I think it sounds great. But you have to take into consideration what Mark said. He had problems with the early solos. However, if you go and listen to Rio 83, listen to that Calling Dr. Love solo. That's awesome. How you can, you know, keep the original from Ace, but turning it into heavy metal without straying away too far. That's the way he should have done with all the solos, but he didn't manage to do that. But he was on his way, and I think if he had stayed in the band for a few more years, this could have been a real cool lineup, because Gene and Paul needed another guy that could, you know, contribute live. They needed someone, but they just couldn't take it. They needed 100% of the limelight, so they wanted someone a bit more laid back. So Bruce Kulick fit the mold perfectly later on. But this is a great lineup. I wish there were more records from this lineup.
Yeah, it was number 3 on my list. For me, I loved the lineup. I think it was a great lineup. Especially,
and you saw some Creatures.
The music
concerts.
that was put out from it was just awesome. I saw that lineup 4 times. So 3 on.
That's
of
great.
course, 3 on Creatures and once on Lick It Up. So that was a really good line. I enjoy it. So it's high on my list. So Lonnie had it at 5. That lineup, and Julian number 3, just like me. Oh, that rhymes, doesn't it? So anyway, all right. So now top 3. We're getting down to the wire here. Top 3: Gene, Paul, Eric Carr, and Bruce. Gene, Paul, Eric Carr, and Bruce. So that's your your era right after Mark St. John. Where it goes through Asylum and through Revenge and and all that. Okay.
So basically, I had this one as number 2.
That's
on my
pretty high.
lineup.
Yeah, it would not surprising. Yeah.
Well, because I mean, again, I talked about this once before, is that a lot of this also had to do for me personally, timeline. You know what I mean? When I was getting into them really hardcore again was around the time of these records. Like, you know, when Animalize came out, I remember we got the single in the house. Jane got me Heaven's on Fire on 45. And, you know, I loved that song. And then, of course, when Asylum came out, that was it. I was like in hook, line, and sinker. Loved that album. Loved all, you know, I had a chance to go on the tour. I was really young, but I think something happened when we had some family thing and we couldn't go. So, but I was that close to going to go see them. But that album, I mean, and that, you know, the tour and the tours that followed it. And I mean, all the footage that I've seen of it, and like even later on, like when they did like those, there was a really great show of them playing in on the Monsters of Rock in Europe, that you can see they're playing during the day. And I mean, they're just great. I've always thought that this lineup was very strong. Bruce Kulick at this point, you know, he was in, and he got better with every record. Live, he got better and better. Eric Carr as well. I thought that he was really settled in at this point. You know, he went through. Don't forget, here's a guy who came in on Unmasked. You know, showed that he could do what they wanted, and then had to go through with the Elder of a record that really confused him. And then from then on in, he was able to do what he wanted to do on Creatures and all those other records. So by this point, he's really glued in. I think that they're, as a band, more importantly, they're really gelling now. You know, that they're writing songs together. I mean, you know, you hear Bruce on some of Paul's demos at this time too. So you can tell that there's more of this, you know, family situation where they're coming in and working on each other's music and stuff like that. And you never really heard much of that on some of the other lineups, you know, and even on the original ones, you've hardly ever heard, like, you know, Ace came over to Paul's house to work on something. That never happened, you know, stuff like that, you know. And you could really tell with this lineup that they were, you know, firing on all cylinders. And, you know, they were also at this point having to work on getting fans back. You know, don't forget, after the kerfuffle that happened with Unmasked and the Elder and all that, they lost tons of fans and had to get them all back again. So they were at that point where they were really working hard and doing it. I mean, just, you know, just some of these concerts to watch, like that one I just mentioned, the Monsters of Rock one. Then there's also the Kiss Tokyo Budokan show that they were doing at that time. I think that was for Crazy Nights.
Yeah.
Amazing. Like, that lineup is so good at this time. I mean, to me, they're number two only to one other lineup, and that we'll mention after, right? So, but incredible, great lineup, and I think it deserves to be number two in my opinion.
Yep. That's your number. No, I didn't.
It's my number two.
That's your number two, which is,
but it's number three actually here.
Okay. Yeah, number three overall. Okay, yeah. Daniel, you had a number 4 on your list. Gene Paul, Eric Carr, and Bruce.
You're muted, Daniel.
Are you muted again?
Oh.
You're worse than me.
Twice. I'm setting a record here. Sorry. No, but I think when I look at my, you know, notepads from elementary school, I'm doodling Eric Carr. I'm doodling Bruce Kulick. So when you're talking timeline, this was what started it for me as well. Eric Carr was the drummer for me, and Bruce Kulick was the guitarist. But when I studied Kiss a bit more and got to understand that there were different lineups, I have to say that I think Vinnie Vincent was a bit cooler than Bruce Kulick, both live and what he wrote for Kiss. So I'd actually have to, even though Bruce Kulick is a fine guy, he's a mensch, he's doing what he's supposed to do. He lacked, that thing with Vinnie Vincent. You never really knew what he would do. He could do something really great, or it could be awful. And I like that unpredictability or whatever it's called. That sort of something from left field can happen. So I like that with Vinnie Vincent back in the day. So I would have preferred Vinnie Vincent to stay in the band a bit longer, even though when we know he recently canceled one of his appearances, and there's always been a lot of trouble with him. He's not very dependable. He seems like he's a nutcase. So
Yeah.
maybe for Kiss, the best thing was to end their relationship with Vinnie Vincent, because you can't work with that guy. But he had some qualities that Bruce, didn't have, I think. This lineup was safe. It was dependable, but at times I felt it was a bit boring. I don't really like some of the records they recorded. Crazy Nights isn't in my top 5. Hot in the Shade is certainly not in my top 5. So much like you described, Ken, when Eric Carr came into the band, it was, a breath of fresh air. For me, it was Eric Singer came into the band and they released Revenge. That felt like a record that was so much better than the previous one. And it had to do with a lot of other things. They had a great producer, didn't they, Mark? And they had and they had a better, more studio time. They put more effort into the album. So Revenge sounded so much better than Hot in the Shade, and I also think it sounded better than Crazy Nights. But it was safe line. It was a safe lineup. But to me, in hindsight, it was a bit boring compared to the other lineups. For me, it's a great lineup. I can't complain. I think they did the job that they were supposed to do. But nothing spectacular. After Asylum, I think they kind of dropped the ball a little bit. I don't like the other albums. So
for a couple albums.
Yeah, I think Crazy Nights and Hot in the Shade they were, following the trends a bit too much. They always been following the trends, but they managed to be, I didn't like those albums. So for me, it's number 4.
But the thing is, though, I think at that point, the problem was that there was already too many of this new wave of bands coming up where Kiss was now starting to be looked at as old hat. It doesn't matter what they would have put out. They are being looked at as, already the band that's like, forget
Dinosaurs.
about Kiss. Yeah. I mean, look, they did Revenge, a record that I love and adore just as much as you do. But they had the best producer that they could get, and this and that, and still didn't mean fuck all. The record didn't do good, and it did terrible for them. So I mean, really, that in the grand scheme of things, it's kind of cruel to think about it that even at their almightiest and strongest, the public didn't give a rat's ass about it. They thought that Soundgarden and that were better,
No. It was terrible being a fan in the early to mid 90s, because you knew that the band sounded great. You knew that the band released great records, but no one except yourself cared about it. It was terrible. So that's the main thing with the reunion. It was great that people suddenly felt that Kiss was great, but live they weren't as great as they had been when people didn't care. So it was kind of a strange feeling there. Oh, Kiss is great. Well, where were you when they released Revenge, you mother trucker?
Well, because they didn't have any makeup. If they would have been in makeup when they did it, then maybe people will listen to it.
Yeah, and as a fan, that was terrible when you came to the understanding that they need the makeup to get the traction.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what they play if they don't wear makeup and use all the, the bombs and effects. So that's really what Kiss will be remembered for, that shock rock band. But we won't forget the great albums they released when they didn't wear makeup. But no one else will care about them.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So now we're now number 2. We'll know which is one by saying number 2, but which we kind of started talking about anyway, I think, here, which is Gene Paul Bruce and Eric Singer. So that's the number two. And I had, believe it or not, I had that at number 5 on my list, but it averaged number 2. I was the lowest on that one.
Okay.
Not for any particular reason that I had a 5. I just like those other lineups a little bit more. I think Mark that's his number 1. This is his number 1 lineup. On here. So Mark, tell us why it's number 1.
Well, like I said before, a lot of it had to do with timeline. But again, when this lineup got together, like when Revenge came out, it was a total revelation to me. I'll still never forget the day that my friend played me Revenge for the first time in his house. Yeah. I couldn't even believe that it was Kiss when I heard it. It's like, this is Kiss? I mean, it sounded so heavy. It sounded, I mean, and people keep saying, I'm reading the comments here too. People say, oh, it's overrated and this and that. But you got to remember, when it came out at that time, Kiss had the last record they had done before this was Hot in the Shade, which was not a good album at all. And it just sounded like that they were very old hat at that time. And when this came out, it was like somebody relit the fires underneath their rear ends, and they finally had a great record. And I mean, Gene was amazing on the record, which was very important. And all of it, and the injection of Eric Singer, like his drumming, just left it like I equate Eric Singer's joining Kiss to when Scott Travis joined Judas Priest for Painkiller. The same thing happened with those bands. They just went from here to like way up here. All of a sudden, technically, performance-wise, I just thought it was absolutely incredible. And I went and saw them live. I mean, I've seen them numerous times. I mean, I just enjoyed the hell out of this lineup. And more importantly to me, I thought that when they played some of the older songs, and I know I'm going to get booed for this, but I prefer their versions of some of the old songs much better than the original lineup. I mean, I think that they gave it more balls to it. It sounded more up to date. Songs that sounded really like dated sound-wise were now songs that you could put side by side beside, Unholy and stuff like that. Like you could play Watching You right after you play, Domino or stuff like that. It sounds perfect because they had that power to it now. They put that same energy into the old material. So for me, these guys worked magic. So this will always be my number 1 lineup. And people are muted.
Okay, Daniel?
Yeah, it's pretty high for me as well. I think I put it in 3rd place. And much like Mark said, I think Eric Singer was an injection into the band. They managed to sound like the current bands. And if you listen to a Live 3, I really enjoy songs like the older stuff, like Deuce. And Watching You, and how well he drummed on those songs. And I was in my mid-teens, I think, at this point of time when Alive 3 came out. So I was really taken aback about how the sound was of the songs, and especially the older songs that I really had missed out on. I didn't really like Deuce before Alive 3 because I didn't like how it sounded on that studio album. So this opened my eyes for the early catalog, and that was much because of Eric Singer.
Yes.
And the way he played them and showed that they were still rocking songs. So I managed to listen to those early albums and seeing the greatness of those early songs. It wouldn't have happened if I didn't hear Live 3 and how Eric Singer updated the songs. So he was very important for my Kiss fandom. And I think he was more of a showman live than Eric Carr, actually. Even though Eric Carr got that great solo spot, but he was twirling the sticks, and he was, throwing his sticks up in the air and catching them. He was, grabbing his cymbals. He showed me things that I hadn't known before. So after listening to Alive 3, I became really interested in drumming myself. So I started to play the drums, and that's much because of Eric Singer and the way he plays. So I think this was, again, a breath of fresh air, and Bruce Kulick really came into his own at this tour as well. He looks and sounds great on the Revenge tour. I think that's his best tour. He felt like he felt like a veteran at that point of time, and I think he enjoyed that he wasn't the new guy anymore. He was like a part of the main core of the band, and you had this new guy in Eric Singer, and he was like the veteran. So I think this lineup was great. They didn't release a whole lot of albums. Revenge, of course, was great. I do have some appreciation for Carnival Souls, even though it's very tainted by the whole grunge thing, and they try to sound like that. But there's a feel to the album. It's very well played. You know, the drums, the guitars, the vocals. It all sounds great. It really doesn't sound like Kiss, but there are some highlights on that album, and I think it's still worth to go back and listen to that album. So I wish they could have stayed together. I mean, I was disappointed, one of the few, when they announced the reunion, because I was looking forward to, you know, what will happen with this lineup. But I guess there was no way to go except going for a reunion in order to keep the band alive, because they were actually at a low point when it comes to popularity. So,
sales and popularity,
sales
and
and
sort of
all
thing,
that.
and
So-
ticket sales too.
Ticket sales too. Yeah.
But one last thing, though, I think that's important to make a point of, and making with number one, is that they also did one thing that I thought was very important on this lineup, is that they updated their guitar sounds. I mean, they stopped using some of their older Marshalls, and they went up to the more modernized JCM 900 Marshalls, which were much more aggressive in tone and stuff like that. And the tone of their guitars were much stronger because of that.
Cool.
You know, you had Bruce Kulick was using these old Dunlop wah pedals, and he was using tube screamers and stuff like that. So his whole tone was finally now more in relation to some of these more hard rockin' bands. You know, you know, you can talk about his sound in relation to, let's say, even KK or someone like that now, because of that same sort of growl and crunch to it. So it was really important to do that. You can't expect to sound heavy when you're using an amp that's, you know, known for tones for the 70s. You know, you gotta update the sounds as well. So I thought that's why I also really liked this time period.
Then Paul started using his Ibanez again, right?
Yeah, and a lot of that had to do with it too. I mean, some of the guitars reacted better with high gain amps, right?
Yeah. So yeah, it's a great lineup. I do have to say though, I'm surprised Lonnie had it at number 2. I would thought it would have been his number 1, but it's his actually number 2 lineup. And Julian, it's number 4 for him. So yeah, though overall it amounted to number 2. All right, no surprise. Here is your number 1 lineup. It is the OG lineup. Gene, Paul, Peter, and Ace. And it's, I don't think it's surprising. Everyone had it at number 1.
No.
All of us had it number 1 except for Mark.
Yeah, I had it at number 4.
Wait a minute. Hold on here. Number 4?
Yeah. Because I mean, and again, I mean, where I came in for it, I mean, you know, I grew to appreciate the original lineup much later, because when I listened to the stuff that I was listening to at the time, the Asylum stuff and Onward, you know, and then I listened back to, like, you know, when people let me hear records like Hotter Than Hell and the first album, I thought that they were lame. I was like, wow, this has no balls to it at all. I thought it was terrible, you know, and you know, I only later did I appreciate these albums and what they presented and stuff like that. And especially when I got to Alive, that's where you started seeing the energy of that original lineup. But a lot of the earlier stuff just didn't sound that appealing to me as the other records did. I mean, don't forget, again, at that time, I wasn't just listening to Kiss. I was listening to a lot of, you know, Metallica. I was listening to Slayer. I was listening to Judas Priest. I was listening to, you know, Rush. I was listening to a lot of other stuff that just was not like that. And when you listen to some of those original records, the OG lineup just didn't do it for me. They just seemed very basic. I mean, and don't forget too, I was at that point listening to and learning guitar stuff from Paul Gilbert and stuff like that, and doing all this stuff. And then Ace, I mean, his licks were all basic. I learned some of his stuff in like half an hour. It was all pentatonic, it's all the same shit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's why I was so bored with his guitar playing. So that's why it never ranked high for me. Much later I got into but it was mainly because of their live shows. I loved seeing the Fire and the Black
Uh-huh.
Diamond with the drum risers and stuff like that. I thought all that stuff was very cool, and that's where the lineup started getting more into my conscience, right? But musically, it took me a long time to get into this lineup.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I understand. I have no problem with that, Mark. It's just if Kiss was your favorite band, I would. Well, I maybe not even. It still probably wouldn't have been number one for you. It's all based on where you came in and what kind of music
Yeah.
you're listening to. So, that's I have no problem with it. But all right, Daniel, what do you say about the number one?
Yeah. Yeah. If you talk skills and technique, they are not the number one lineup, but you can't stray away from they were the ones who started it all. Most of the classic great Kiss songs were written and performed by this lineup. Even though I like Tears Are Falling, Heaven's on Fire, Unholy, I mean, you can't deny the power of those 70s albums. And even, for me, as I became a Kiss fan in the mid 80s, but and for a few years I didn't really like those early albums or that lineup. But no, great, getting more and more knowledge about the band, listening more and more, I couldn't deny the power of those early albums and the impact the band had on popular culture. I mean, they were sort of the kings of shock rock.
Yeah.
I can just imagine Gene in the 70s. I mean, what a character! It has never been topped. It's never been topped. There's never been a cooler character than Gene Simmons in the 70s, I think. So, to be perfectly honest, I have to put them in number one, even though I do understand that Ace can't play the things that Bruce is playing or that Vinny can play.
Or vice versa.
Yeah, I think they could mimic Ace's playing if they wanted to, but
Yeah.
but it's the rawness. It's the birth of the band. It's what made them a classic band. So I have to put that lineup at number one. There's
But the
really
thing is,
no way around it.
I don't want to make this confusing. I'm not saying that it's all technical. To me,
No.
the thing is, I just liked what they were doing better overall, songwriting wise. It's not just technical thing. I mean, sure they are technically better, but I just liked the music at that time better. Sure, nowadays a lot of look at my favorite song that I voted was Black Diamond when we did the overall song thing, and that's an early
Yeah.
song. That's like a first album
Yeah.
song, so it's not that
Yeah.
it has to be. It has to be like overly complicated 20-minute song. That's not it. It's just at that time, that's what got me interested in the band. So that's why it was always being such a high ranking lineup for me, right?
Yeah. Well, for me, yeah, I came in the 70s for them. That's part of the reason, but the other reason is the music has always been the most important thing for me, and I think that music from the 70s is so much better than what came after. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in the 80s, especially early 80s. But I just think the music was just right on, great stuff. The majority of the music that they put out in the 70s, especially the first 6 albums, you can count down, Dynasty too and The Mass, but those first 6 albums had so much good stuff, and I'll listen to that a lot more than I do what came after. That's why I like that lineup. Yeah, I like the lineup because it's also, of course, yeah, it's the one that it's
Timeline.
the ultimate, makeup, costumes. They started the big shows like
Yeah.
more than any other band that came after. They are the ones that kind of started that type of show. But yeah, it's always been about, for me, the music. I just love that music from the early stuff. So let
I
me just
just
say, well, 1 second, yeah, Daniel, I'll just say that Lonnie had it number one, Julian had it number one, everyone had number one except for Mark, of course, but we know why Mark didn't. But go ahead, Daniel. What do you say?
Yeah, I like to look at that overall ranking and realizing that I would enjoy every lineup. Maybe not the last one, but the others I would enjoy seeing them live. I mean, there are all great lineups, but
Yeah.
they're up against some heavy competition.
Yeah, there's no, yeah, like we said at the beginning, there's no right or wrong to this. Everyone's going to have their own favorites, whether it's because of music or their concerts that they put on or their whatever.
Yeah, but there's a lot of ways to look at this, and I think Super Sapper he's been commenting. He has had a lot of great comments, and the latest one there, Creatures and Lick It Up, are peak musicianship in my opinion. Both albums are flawless and exciting. Yeah, they managed to revitalize Kiss
back to back.
in the mid to early 80s there, and write stuff that you didn't think they were able to write. I mean, they went away from that pretty simple boogie rock to metals almost in a few years, and it's really impressive that they could take that step into the current music and be able to master it. Going from something like All the Way to Not for the Innocent in a decade. That's pretty cool. And Kiss, you have to give it to them. They were great at mimicking the current rock that was popular
Later on.
They didn't do like AC/DC and try to play it the same way all the way through. Some people would have liked them to do, this first album over and over again. But in hindsight, I kind of enjoy the different flavors of Kiss. I can go to Crazy Nights if I want that hair metal. I can go to The Elder if I want something that's, just strange. Or I could go to Revenge if I want some heavy metal shit. So I think that's a cool thing with Kiss.
Yes, the variety of their music is actually a good thing, I think. It brings in a lot of different fans. And certain people may like Dynasty style more than anything else, or like Revenge versus something else. But it gives you have a lot of. It doesn't get boring with them because there's so many changes throughout the career, and I think that's one of the reasons we are actually here and have a podcast, because there's so many different things the career of Kiss has gone through. So
Yeah.
any final thoughts on this list?
Well, I'd just like to say that
Prize.
idea you had, Ken, about doing a sort of a live episode on the live reaction thing, that sounds sort of titillating to me. I think that would be something cool to do.
Titillating.
Titillating. How the hell how do you say that? It's a tongue twister from a guy from Europe. But you know what I mean. I think that would be something pretty cool. I'd be up for that if it's not in the middle of the night. I don't know what time
the middle of the night,
it's over here, but
well, yeah, it's 9:15. It might be in the morning there, but yeah, I don't know. So yeah, maybe we can do it. We'll see if Julian wants to do it. We may not do it, but it was just a thought.
I think it was a great idea. Just like something different. So, but when it comes to the list, I think this is
not too many surprises.
Not too many surprises. What you could say a bit. Well, if I compare to the poll I did on my YouTube channel, the Eric Singer and Bruce Kulick era ranks way higher on this list than the one.
There's only 5 of us who. Versus 200 and something.
But 5 experts. So in
5 experts.
5 experts
Okay,
might
the
rank
expert
this
poll?
lineup a bit higher than the common man on the street, because they don't really. I guess they don't know about that lineup that much. They might have missed it completely.
Yeah,
it's possible.
All right. Well, I think that wraps it up. I want to thank everyone who came in and watched this episode, or is about to, or who listens to this or watches it after the fact. We appreciate you, coming on and checking out our podcast. So I think that's going to wrap it up. We'll see what happens next week. See what the boss Julian says when he gets back, whether we'll do a Thursday live thing or if we will, just do our normal Saturday morning live episode. So from Mark, Daniel, and myself, Ken, we'll see you next time.
Thank you for spending time listening to the KissFAQ podcast today. All sales are final. There are no refunds. If you'd like, look us up on Facebook or come over to the message board and discuss the topics we've broadcast today. Don't forget to hit subscribe wherever you've listened to this show, and a like would very much be appreciated. We hope you'll join us again, but until then, remember, life's a radio. Turn it up to 10.